Hey everybody, I'm sitting here beside a creek in my neighborhood. It's like this. It's pretty cool down here. There's the not so glamorous drain pipes, but oh well. Otherwise, the creek's pretty neat. And what I want to talk to you about today is getting started with our ecosystem unit, which is one of your summer assignments. I want to go through the material that's in a PowerPoint with you, but I want to do it like we were actually talking about it in class. And so I wanted to go over some of the terms with you first. First being, I guess, ecology, which you know, I'm sure from years past, is the study of the interactions of living things with each other and their environment, the non-living things in their environment. So interactions is a big, complex topic. How do all of these living things that are here, from the little minnows in this creek, which all ran and hid when I came and sat down. Well, they didn't run and hide, they swam and hid, to the vegetation, all the trees and the ferns here along the bank, lovely, and the water itself. How does that impact the living things? How do the living things impact the water? The sunlight that's available. There is sunlight here, but how much is available to the organisms down here where I am as opposed to up there at the roadside? So on. So, let's talk a little vocabulary beyond that. This, talking about ecosystems, the most basic level at which we can talk about an ecosystem is at the organismal level. You can go in science and biology much more basic than that. You can go down to the organs and the tissues and the cells and the molecules and all of that. But that in ecology is not particularly helpful. So the individual organism is the most simple level. We can talk in ecology, and but even that is not so helpful, because remember, ecology is interactions, and one organism does not an interaction make. Here's an organism right here. This is a maple tree, I think so, by looking at these leaves that are shaped like that. And we could talk about how it fits in with its environment, but a more helpful approach would probably be to bump it up to the next level and talk about a population, perhaps talk about the population of maple trees in this area, meaning all the maple trees that are around here. We could do a population study of how many there are, how many reproduce over the course of a year, how many die over the course of the year, and how old the different individuals are, things like that. Those would be parts of a population, all the organisms of one species living in a particular area. Okay, but we could even bump the discussion up at a new level of complexity, and we could talk about the community. And that's talking about all the different species that are in this area, all the different living types of living things, species. So not only would we talk about this maple tree, but we would then look at how it interacts with these beautiful little ferns down here, and the little minnows in this little creek, of which I wonder if we could find some. They really swam and hid under the stone when I walked up. I'm sure there might be some tadpoles in here, some frogs. There were crows when I first walked up, though they've walked away. Here's some other critters over here. Actually, they flew away. These are damselflies. Aren't they beautiful? They have black wings. They sort of look like dragonflies, but they are not. They are different. black wings. This one has a green body, and it's really pretty, very delicate, and very pretty in the way it flies. Look at that. Really pretty. So we could talk about how all of these things interact with each other, the predators, the prey, and how their complex relationships affect each other. We could then bump it up a notch and talk about things at the ecosystem level down here. We could talk about how all these living things interact and affect those abiotic factors I mentioned earlier when we were just talking about what ecology is. How do these things impact the water that's here? How do these plants impact the light availability to those that live down here? So we can talk about how the non-living things impact the living things and vice versa, and that's bringing it up to the ecosystem level. And finally, we can talk about a biome, which you all just really, let me take a moment to say, learn your biomes, okay? That's stuff that you've been introduced to time and time again. You need to know, tundra, tropical rainforest. This biome, which is a beautiful temperate deciduous forest, and biomes are determined by, generally speaking, climate factors, temperature, amount of precipitation, and that kind of determines how much life can be supported, okay? Now, once we get out beyond the very broad regions of talking about biomes, then our last level of complexity is the entire biosphere of the Earth, which is the amazingly narrow portion of the Earth that actually can and does support life. Okay? So those are your basic levels that we want to talk about through ecology, starting with organism, population, community, ecosystem, biome, and biosphere. Some other basic terminology to remember: habitat, where things live, like right here. Niche, the role organisms play in their environment. So what role are these ferns over here playing in their environment? What is their niche? What is the role of the minnows here and that little damselfly? Their niches. What role? Are they prey? Are they predator? Do they do other kinds of things in the environment beyond just being a food source or eating things? Then we got two more terms that we need to talk about: autotroph and heterotroph. Okay? An autotroph is something that makes its own food. Okay? And I don't mean it goes to the fridge and makes a sandwich. What I mean is using the energy from some other source, perhaps light, like there's some light coming in right there, striking the surface of these leaves, and this organism can use that light energy to make food within its own tissues, okay, that it then consumes within its own tissues. That is autotrophism. And of course, the form of autotrophism that this plant and all these other plants can do is called photosynthesis, using light, the energy of light, to fuse little inorganic compounds, carbon dioxide and water, into sugar molecules that then the tissue consumes and uses for things like growth and whatever else a plant needs to do. Okay? Now, photosynthesis is not the only kind of autotrophism. It's the one that's probably most important to us, given where we live up here with all these plants, and these plants act as the harness of that sunlight that we can't use directly, but they can. And then we get that energy from sunlight by eating their tissues. Now, I'm not going to run up and eat this maple leaf, but something might, and convert that energy that's been stored in that leaf into some form of energy that I could then use by eating the thing that ate that, okay? Now, if you don't live around this light, does that mean that there can be no life? Is there no life where there is no light? Of course, we know that's not true. We have seen that there is life at the very depths of the ocean where no light can penetrate all that water. And those organisms are using not photosynthesis, but chemosynthesis, our other form of autotrophism. Okay? There's a video in the PowerPoint I would like for you to look at, but you can just Google deep sea vents and look at the astounding amount of life that is around those deep sea vents. Not based on light, but based on inorganic compounds coming up from the earth, little bacteria that have evolved to be able to convert those inorganic compounds, use them as an energy source to make their own food. And then those bacteria serve as the basis for the food web in that deep ocean environment. Just like these green autotrophs here are the basis for our food web. Okay? And finally the word heterotroph, which is all the organisms like us, like these minnows and this little creek, to the birds and so on, and the insects that are singing around me right now. That's heterotrophism is simply eating organic stuff to get your energy. Okay, eating here, I'm gonna, yum, if I were to eat this leaf, I'm showing you that I'm a heterotroph. I won't do that though. Okay, so that's what I wanted to introduce you to. That's all we're going to talk about right now. Then we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of how the energy and the nutrients are passed from things like this to things like you and me. And that's kind of the nuts and bolts of this particular first unit in ecology called ecosystem dynamics, those ways that matter and energy move through an ecosystem. Okay? Hope you've enjoyed my little tour of the little favorite little corner of where I live. It's pretty cool down here. All right. Have a great day. Bye.